Hello, everybody. Welcome back
Hello.
to another fabulous Thursday.
Yes.
I don't know why Johnny being so quiet. I don't like it.
I'm sorry, I am preoccupied. Um,
hmm You
but
know you got to do the intro. Don't act like that.
I know. Um, one thing though, I'm gonna need you to get some headphones by next week. Boom, boom, boom. Yep, you on this side. That one, Patrice. Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Keeping It 100, and we here live. Is this thing on? Is this thing on? I don't like the silence. Everybody don't have to be on mute. Is this thing on? Give me some feedback. Is it on? Is it on? Is the red light is on?
It's
Is this
on,
bitch
it's
running? I think
on.
it is. Shout out to T.S. Madison and all the other great people out there that has influenced these streams and these personalities and things like that. We want to make sure that we want to keep y'all shout out. Make sure that we give homage where it's due, right? um, um, so it's been a while since y'all seen a lot of us. Actually, at one time, I think we've been dipping in and out for the last couple of weeks and whatever. But we've back. We've gotten Sean back. I as I have been struggling to do listen up with Sean over the last couple of weeks. Um, but we got him back, so he's going to be welcoming that segment back and giving it back to him. Also, we want to give a shout out to Crew. Crew is our sister organization. They stand for Community Resource and Empowerment and Wellness. They are important. They due to something that we're talking about today, which is the harm reduction model and things like that. So we want to get into a little bit more of that conversation later on today in the conversation. We also want to give a shout out to Rain for giving us the platform to do Keeping It 100, right? It's a time for us to kind of be authentically us, have these raw conversations about taboo subjects, and we talk about our experiences as a teaching moment. So I just want to kind of thank you for giving us the platform to kind of do this and allowing us to be authentically us.
As a segue, it's AIDS Walk. We need your money. $5. That's it. That's all I'm asking for everybody. If you could send $5, $5 plus $5 is $10. Times 5 is $25. You see where I'm going with that.
I said, we got you.
Yes. If you
Give
would
me
like,
your money.
if you would like to donate, I think everybody have their own personal links and stuff on their personal pages. So
Yes.
feel free to contact them individually or go to their page and you can kind of find the link somewhere and donate that way. Also, if you want to sign up as a participant and actually create your own team, you're able to do that as well and go through your own social networks and get people to donate to you on behalf of you for a larger and bigger cause. So thank you. Get that done. Share, live, like, figure it out.
The Unicorn Gang is taking all walkers that would like to join. Come on in.
I just made my post today, so y'all already know what time it is. Come on,
Gang,
keep them
gang.
going.
Okay.
Keep them going.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and segue this on to Listen Up with Sean.
Listen.
Hey.
Y'all already know. Y'all already know what time it is. Listen, I have literally missed you guys, okay? And I haven't put y'all in the mix about what's been going on with the people. Y'all already know I got the gossip, but you didn't hear it from me. I'm just saying. But anyway, I want to start off by talking about this incident that I just seen recently. I think it was yesterday, if I believe. I was on Instagram, scrolling doing my regular degler, and I came past a video of Quavo and Saweetie. Now, supposedly it was that Quavo put his hands on Saweetie, and everybody was making this big deal about men putting their hands on women, and this whole, it was just a whole big controversy about that. Now, after that whole situation happened, a longer video was then released showing really what happened with the whole situation, so people can stop making speculation. So, what really supposed to happen? Saweetie was trying to take Quavo's bag, and I think in his bag was supposed to be in his game system. It was something that was in that bag that he was trying to keep her from taking. So he snatched the bag from her when she had just swung on him first, and then he tried to grab the bag, and she was trying to take it and get in the elevator and leave, but he ended up like kind of like pushing her, and she fell, and they're making a big deal about it. So I just want to know y'all opinion on this whole situation. If you've seen the video, then you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, I'm trying to fill you in a little bit. Quavo is he's a rapper, and Saweetie is a rapper herself, and they're both from, I think they're both from Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. Bryce.
Yes. No, Sweetie is from the Bay. She's from the Bay Area.
Right. So yeah, these are two rappers. It's a female rapper and a male rapper that are dating, and they got into a little, scruffle, and people are making a big deal about it. So Bryce, what's up with me? Talk to me. I already know you. Go ahead.
I don't agree with domestic violence of anybody in a relationship. However, I feel like if somebody wants to leave that situation, you should allow them to leave. I definitely would have not tried to stop him from leaving, nor would I try to touch his property. But I do feel like there was a little aggression behind the way he snatched it from her. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just I don't think the situation.
You wouldn't be aggressive if somebody was trying to take your shit.
Can I speak? But like, I think that I do not agree with domestic violence in any situation. I do not agree with touching somebody's property or destroying their property.
Right.
At all.
Okay. How you feel about Patrice? Go ahead.
I think the whole shit is crazy. These little babies is out here doing the most. Now, if somebody tried to take my shit, would I react the same or worse? Depending on what it is, possibly.
Right. Now, do you think it was wrong of him to aggressively push her to get his property when he's a man and she's a woman? Like, does that play a factor in it for you?
If you step up, you can get knocked the fuck out. Be ready.
No.
If you gonna run up on somebody like you grown and you about that life, then you're gonna take that L. I don't give a fuck.
Oh my goodness, Johnny, how do you feel about it? Did you hear about it?
Yeah, I was trying to show the video now, but it ain't working. It ain't doing what I wanted to do. It's keep freezing. So, but anyway, I've actually had an incident done like this before, where somebody was trying to walk out and I grabbed a bag and things like that. This was a long time ago, and I remember like after the incident took place, like I was wrong. Right. Again, somebody is trying to walk out. Just I need you to go into the room. Somebody is trying to walk out. And I'm trying to get them to stay for my own selfish reasons, or I want to argue, or I feel like my point is not being heard, or my point is not being said, or my point is something like I don't know. It was whatever reason. I'm not trying to let this person leave, and the person's trying to walk out, and I'm not allowing it. I deserve. I don't say I deserve anything, but I am provoking something to take place, right? This person is trying to walk out of a situation before it gets there, and I am provoking that person to do, to do whatever and things like that. I'm not excusing it. I don't think it's ever okay, but I think there is a provoking mechanism that is there that kind of causes to happen. And again, I'm not saying that this is okay, because it's definitely not, but there was a provoking thing that was there. So sometimes we do see that a lot, unfortunately. And I think that society kind of forced us to kind of look at it look at it in the lens of the female and things like that. And I get it, it's okay, things like that. But society has have us look at it the lens of the female. Oh, he pushed her down or things like that. But the moments leading up to like she's hitting him in his head. I remember when I was a kid, somebody was hitting me in my head. It was a female, and this lady came up to me, and I would not hit her back. Like she would just beat my. She was like, "Don't you ever let somebody hit you in your head like that? You like things like that and whatever." And I remember those moments, but it doesn't. I mean, but I couldn't find a justification of me trying to hit her back as a boy,
right?
And things like that. But I think there's sometimes. I think that like those are hard conversations to kind of have, because you have to look at it one way, and there is like, when is it okay for a man to defend and protect himself? Agreed. Right, and not be looked at as the villain, Agreed. So that's kind of what
Justice, what about you?
I mean, I feel kind of like Johnny, but also as a public figure, I understand that you have to like know that people are watching you. When you're a public figure, you are under a microscope, and even if you didn't do anything, the fact that an altercation between you and your significant other was caught on camera, and the media can spin it any way they want to, and they already have. So I personally don't think it was a domestic thing. Uh, I just think, from what I saw and my point of view, it was, something was happening. They were tussling over something. It wasn't like, oh, I'm beating your ass because I'm tired of you, and that I'm just beating your ass just to beat your ass. It's like, it's an everyday thing, but when you're a public figure, things like that get magnified, and he becomes the villain. And I am totally against domestic violence. I'm gonna say that, but I don't, I don't think it was a domestic thing in this case. I just think it was like the media taking something and like, oh, they just broke up, and the Migos got an album about to come out. Let's generate some publicity. Boom, 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 bam, bam, bam. Here we are.
But I don't think they're even broken up. They're back together though, right? They're not. They're together as of April 1st, 2021. Sweetie Elevator didn't break us up. Too many other hurdles. They're not. They didn't break up.
That is true. That's what they're reporting, that they're still together. But that's the thing about it. That's what I'm saying. Like that's why I say
we got to ask our guest, because we didn't take her off at the beginning. You got to ask her for her thought process on it as well, after you introduce her, of course.
Yes. Hey, Lauren. Usually we take our guests off during this part of the segment that we do, but we forgot to take you off. But it's all fine. We would love to have you part of this conversation. But before we do that, I want you to give a introduction of yourself. Say your name, your job title, and what it is that you do. Give us a little brief description. I forgot to get that information from you earlier today. That's my apology. I should be introducing her myself, you guys. But I'm gonna let her introduce herself, and then if she wants to answer the question, she can go right ahead and put her input in as well. Okay.
You guys are awesome. No, I'm glad that I've been a part of this. I like the conversation. I do have some thoughts, but thank you guys for having me. I'm Lauren Kessner. I work at Center for Prevention Services, and I oversee harm reduction efforts. So I oversee the Queen City Needle Exchange and just other special projects that we run through the harm reduction branch of the agency. And the agency really encompasses a lot of different prevention-based programs. So I am here today to talk about harm reduction, answer any questions you guys have, and really this is like a fun crew to be a part of. I've really enjoyed my time so far. My only thoughts, regarding what you brought up, the media just has such a tendency. I mean, like, you just never know. And my only main thought is that it really takes two, especially if these are two people who are still together. And you just really never know what the situation is. Now, do I think it's ever right for somebody to feel like they're being held hostage and they can't leave a situation? Do I think that things should have been handled probably a lot differently? Sure. But this stuff can really spin out and ripple out, when it gets blasted out on media and everybody's watching. I mean, you just have to be so careful. And I love what you brought up about, like, how are men, supposed to defend themselves? And there's a lot of interesting stuff around men's culture and, we are very hyper. I mean, I'm a feminist. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings around, a lot of the oppression and things that females and, we've experienced in the workplace and society and our communities. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot of layers there, but you're right. How do men really appropriately defend themselves in these really volatile situations? The lens is so hyper focused on them and what they're doing and how they're retaliating. And, I've been in a lot of situations where I've had to defend myself and the guy has needed to defend himself, that, we're being honest. I mean, I mean, when you're a woman who has, and I am a woman who's been impacted in a lot of different ways. And I don't really consider my impact, today what it was 5 years or 10 years or even 20 years ago. But, it really does take two. I was definitely I was definitely willing to fight back. I definitely have a mouth. You know, that shit. Oh, sorry. That always
You're
needs.
fine. No, you're fine. You are
That's all.
fine.
That always needs to be considered. It's a tough call to make when you're just watching some of the stuff that is so freshly streamed and blasted out there. You just really never know what's going on.
Exactly. That's true. That's true. Yep. Okay, you guys, I love all this input that I was getting on that. That just gave me some more things to think about when it came to the situation. Because I was being kind of like, he's wrong for putting his hands on her. Like, she's a woman. Like, I guess because of the way I was raised, it was just always, a man is never supposed to put his hands on a woman, regardless.
Boo.
So, that's just the way I
I'm
was raised. I'm
stopping
just saying. So, that's the way I was just looking at the situation. But needless
Aldi,
here and there.
I have the footage.
You have the footage?
I have the footage.
You want to play the footage?
I have the footage.
Let's see it. Let's see.
Roll that beautiful being footage.
Go eat.
All right.
Not TMZ. They so messy.
So we see Quavo. What's his name? Quavo.
Yeah.
In the elevator, and Sweetie's on the ground behind him.
So it wasn't like he was attacking and beating on her like that. He was trying to get something from her and push her down, and she just.
Yeah, he was trying to get in, and she was trying to block him, and she got bowled over.
Mm-hmm. He not once turned around and even looked like. He looked at her and then looked at the camera and was like, "I can't believe you even like."
Yeah.
He probably was like, "I can't believe you even got me."
She set him up to kill.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, was she up and did she just go back down on her own?
She stayed on the ground the whole time.
Oh, okay. She
She just sitting there like rocking back and forth like.
Look at his face.
It's one of those looks like really big.
All right, if you don't get up, that's what he's looking like. Get up, you're being dramatic.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I cannot.
I just don't get it. I've never been to bake. You're like, stop, don't leave. You want to leave, you can leave.
I know, man. Get out. That's cool.
That is crazy. Oh, she finally got up.
Yeah.
They are funny.
It's not.
Yeah.
Wow. So you guys, I had to show you guys that. Well, I had to talk about that because that was something that was recent. However, we're going to move on to the next topic, and this is another hot topic because this is something that's been going across the internet for the past couple of days. Let's talk about one of my new faves. Now, he's actually not one of my new faves. I actually started liking him since I heard one of his first songs that I used to jam to. But we're going to talk about Lil Nas X and these new shoes that he's dropping. And not only the new shoes he's dropping, but the video that was also dropped with his new song. So,
yes.
Let's talk about the shoes first because I feel like the shoe thing is more bigger than the video itself. Like people are really tripping out because these new Air Maxes that Lil Nas X is teaming up with Nike with, it's supposed to be a drop of blood that's supposed to be like was put in the fabric at the bottom of the shoe. It's supposed to be carrying this star. It has 666 and stuff all on the shoe, which is supposed to be all this demonic, evil, devilish stuff that people are talking about. And for him to be on social media basically trolling right now, because that's what he's doing. I don't know if you guys know what trolling is or you ever heard of trolling when it comes on the internet, but he's basically making a mockery and making fun of what people would have been saying to him. He's just returning the favor back to them, basically, pretty much. So I don't even know where to start with this because it's so many, like, it's just like the blood part threw me off, then the 666 part threw me off because like I said, how I grew up. I've told this story plenty of times before, how my family is old in church, all that type of stuff. That is demonic to them. My family's probably flipping out right now, like, oh, that's the devil shoe. The Little Nas is the devil right now, and you guys are liking the video and that. Somebody talk to me. Somebody talk to me.
Entitled to make any type of shoe that he wants. If they want to push it, they want to brand it, he can. Earlier in the year, they had the Holy Waters, so and now they have these, and if you want to buy them. If you don't, you don't. Don't look at it. Like people's opinions are not really needed sometimes. Just like you could be Christian, there's people who worship, the devil. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
No, let me go, please.
Go ahead.
Oh my God. People irritate me because it's just like when WAP came out. It was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, baby, it's music. If you don't like it, turn it off. It's that simple. As far as the shoes, as Bryce said, they came out with the Holy Waters last year, but the same company that made these shoes is not Nike. And they didn't have permission by Nike. They didn't have any permission or clearance by Nike to endorse either one of these Holy Water shoes or these Satan shoes. The only difference is they could get a celebrity or somebody popular to endorse the Holy Water shoes. So that's why you didn't hear a lot of people making a hoopla about it. But then you have a gay rapper who is coming out with this video that kind of, can feed this, oh, these shoes come out right here. This is the perfect time because this video causing all this controversy. Let's do it. And he's been a troll since before he was famous. He became famous from being a little Nicki Minaj stan account on Instagram. So he knows what the fuck he's doing. Excuse my language. Why are y'all so surprised? Leave this boy alone because DMX has done satanic shit. There's been other artists that have done satanic shit in their videos, but nobody's batted it. There's a whole group named 3-6 Mafia. Lord Jesus, and they won a Grammy and Oscar.
For years, they've been saying Beyonce is a part of the Illuminati and all this. So, it's just all this demonic stuff. Her videos are black and she's wearing. So, yeah, like I totally get what you're saying. I definitely get what you're saying. So, yeah.
I feel like they're only doing this and going this far. It's because he's gay. And he's going to turn your kids gay. Girl, no. If your kid is gay, it's because he was already gay and you just didn't want to accept it. Like, leave this boy alone. That's
okay.
Sorry.
What's up, Patrice? I see.
He's just not participating in this question. You know where I stand with God and Jesus. This is foolishness. Let that boy have his shoes. Enjoy that good video. It is an artistic piece. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
For you to take something that is music and personal as expression, just like when they had the artist that came to the gallery and they was mad because he had the cross turned upside down in the jar of pee. Get over it. It's called freedom of expression.
Madonna.
Madonna was kissing girls on stage, baby. Yes, they had a fit.
A whole fit. Lauren, have you seen?
Do you know about Lil
So this was actually like not something I was familiar with, but just in listening to you guys, so I'm an artist by trade, and I mean, let people be people. Like Patrice is saying, like, this is expression. This isn't like something they're trying to like subscribe everybody in the United States to or wherever, globally. It's just like who they are, what they're trying to express. They've created a piece. They'll probably let it go in a month because like once it's out with artists, it's like, boop, got it out, done. You move on, you move to the next creation. It's just not that big of it. It's important to look at. It's important to reflect on and have these conversations. It shouldn't be so argumentative. It's just a piece of art. It's a universal language of expression.
That's it. That's it. Johnny, talk to me. What's up?
Well, I don't really have comment in regards to the actual shoe, because I kind of felt like, and I still kind of feel like, it's too much going. It's too much going on. Like that, especially after the video. Like, wait, give me some time to adjust to this video first, right? And I actually liked the video. I had to do my own research. I had to look at the lyrics, look at what he actually meant, and I love the concept. I love it. Right? We can get into the video a little bit later. I know you're discussing the shoe and things like that, but I can't get down with the shoe. I can't. I can't get down with the shoe. I can't get down with buying it, endorsing it, spending money on it, buying it for somebody. I can't get down with the shoe. That to me, that is a little bit too much. And it's just a lot. It's just too much. Like, I'm glad you brought up 3 6 Mafia and the rest of this stuff, because like when I was going down my Rolodex, and I was thinking about like different things like we've already been exposed to, that's been in your face, like it's just been out there. I didn't think about 3 6 Mafia, and things like that. So I'm glad you kind of said that.
And people was definitely out here. It's hard out here for okay. That was everybody's song when it came out. So y'all please leave him alone. And
Okay.
the shoes sold out, so you ain't got to worry about buying the shoes.
Okay, they
If I
literally
could
sold
afford
out.
them, I would have had me a pair because I thought they was cute as shit.
They are cute shoes. I would
No
have cut
shade,
the,
it is a
I
cute
don't
shoe.
do
No
demonic
shade.
stuff. I would have cut the little pendant off, but that
I'm into
Now,
all of that. I need all of that.
So as far as the video, I don't know. I mean, the video, like Johnny was just saying, is so artistic. You know, he's giving the devil a lap dance. He's coming down. He's basically sliding down the
He
pole
wants
into
triple pole from
hell.
heaven.
It's the finger curls for me.
I have seen pictures of this. Now I know what video you guys are talking
Yes,
about.
he literally is in. He's literally coming down a stripper pole from heaven to hell. Like literally, just. I mean, it's literally this. You have to read the lyrics to the song too in order to
I'll
really
have to,
where it's
yeah.
coming from. So it's like, I mean, it has a really, really good meaning, but it's I kind of can relate to him how like what Christians be saying and people in church, like about how we're supposed to grow up and not be gay, and you're going to hell if you're gay, and you know you can't live this certain type of lifestyle. Like you've been judged your whole life, so he took everything that he was being judged on and flipped it around, like
So two
and literally made like.
thoughts. People are
Go ahead.
freaks with their shoes. So I mean, like again, just let people be people. And second, I don't know a single Catholic who hasn't sinned. So like take the freak level to like a whole nother level. And I'll leave it there.
Right.
Okay.
And as far as like visually, like this video was everything, like visually, right? Like take away the message, take away the demonic stuff. Visually, this was a work of art, period, and I cannot take it away.
It was beautiful. The different camera
beautiful.
angles and
Oh
filters,
my
like
gosh.
it was an amazing production.
It
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
I couldn't. That was that. That was that. That's just the first layer. Second layer of it is the lyrics, and the fact that, or the messaging behind the video more so. Before I get to the lyrics, the message behind the video, I like the fact that he brought to our attention that there are parts of ourselves that we kind of put in the background because society tells us to, and we are afraid to kind of let that be known. So with him embracing that, he was embracing the fact that you guys tell me that I'm going to hell all the time. You tell me that I'm going to hell, so I'm going to go to hell and make the best of hell. I'm going to go to hell and kill Satan, and I'm going to control hell. Like I'm controlling my fate, right? And that was the message behind the video. So, but all of that got lost in translation because people got so stuck on him giving Satan a lap dance, him doing this, him doing that. So all of that got lost in translation, and I hate that because the messaging of this video it was so good, like it was so good. And the lyrics of the song, like just the title, what is it? Call Me by My Name. And who remember Erykah Badu? Okay, so like
she was butt naked and window deep.
Okay.
Image, call us by his name. Like that is like all of that. Like that, there's a messaging in these words. Like you have to really.
Wait, what did you say?
Oh, which I don't know what part you.
What you say about Erykah and her lyrics?
Oh, her lyrics. If we were made in his image, then call us by our name. So you know how people would say that we're made in the image of God. Then if we made it in the image of God, then call me a God. That's what I am, right? And things like that. So it was just I just love the video. I love the language in it. And it took me a while. It had to grow on me because in the beginning, like that religious Christian side of me. Oh no! Turn this off. Turn this off. Oh my God! You know, it took me a while, but I end up loving it, and I ended up loving it. Now, would I show it to my grandmother? Probably not.
I'm telling you, I already know my family over there. I know they not watching that. I know for a fact they have not watched that video.
She
They
like
probably seen one picture like that's it. Mm-mm.
I just hate
Okay,
that
so
people feel the need to tell people how to express themselves. That's my honest opinion.
What you say?
I hate that people feel the need to tell somebody how to express themselves. Like you're not making music. If you want to tell
right.
somebody how to express themselves, you go make music and you go make music videos. You put that work in, then you can say
That's
but
it.
it's not
girl, I'm gonna tell you what my aunt be saying. That's your ticket to hell. So you know what ain't got nothing to do with me.
You know,
Ain't
but
got
here's the
nothing to
thing.
Right.
But Justice, I think the problem is that so here's the thing, and here's what I also wanted to bring up too, is that Little Nas X was introduced to the world. I know he's introduced to you as trolling and other people that paid attention to stuff like that, but he was introduced to the world as a kid-based person with their own town road. That was a kid song. I don't.
no, no, no,
That
no, no, no.
was
Old
not
Town
a
Road was
child
I know
song.
the lyrics.
I
Wait a
need you
minute.
to
Stop.
listen to those
Stop.
lyrics.
Stop. I know
he
the
was talking
lyrics.
about adultery.
I know the lyrics. I know the lyrics, but that song weighed heavily on our kids' generation. We cannot say that it didn't because we know that it did.
Yes, it
That
is.
Just
song,
like every Nicki Minaj song. That don't
right?
mean
Yeah, but it's
But
not
every
his
Nicki
fault.
Minaj is not a kid
Parents allowed
song.
him
There's a difference.
on.
Our babies were actually singing the song.
I understand
So
that.
it's funny. There was a meme that I saw. So like I was thinking about this the other day because like I grew up to like Baby Got Back and like all that stuff, right? Like I mean, bootylicious all the way, and it was
80s babies. Step out.
right. And then if you also remember, I don't know if you were like into it or not, but like South Park, like we watched like Saddam Hussein get in bed with Satan and like I mean like the like hype around this, it's like, come on, man, like where did you grow up? Like I mean, I'm not one that's like suit up and like, you know, just to have thicker skin, but I mean, I just think given like the history, this is just not that big of a deal.
Right.
Yeah,
That's how I feel about it.
yeah, and you think about like shows like the Powerpuff Girls. You think about shows like Cow and Chicken.
Yes.
You think about they had demonic.
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, they had very much demonic stuff in those.
Oh,
All
and
the
let's
time.
not forget, lick my neck, lick my booty, and
My
my.
pussy and my fat.
Yeah.
What
I
demonic stuff
remember
is in
getting
these
down to
cartoons,
that.
Johnny?
Huh?
That's what I want to know.
Like
What
like
demonic stuff is in these cartoons?
The
like
protagonist was always the devil.
the protagonist was a devil. He was gay. He used to wear heels. He had to use a
Him.
white. Like you don't remember Powerpuff Girls?
Him.
He was called him. Yeah.
Yeah. But he
What are
looked
you
like he
talking
got
about?
that.
You don't remember that? No.
Let
Oh
me
my
pull up the
goodness.
Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, I can't believe she don't know who him is.
I don't wanna hold us up, y'all. We haven't
Yes,
got
they
too deep in this
portrayed him as
conversation.
like devil. Him. He used to be like, girls, what are you doing?
No, I definitely don't know her.
Y'all play too much. Wait.
He was a man.
You pulling it up, Johnny? You want me to go ahead and go to the last one?
No, go ahead and go to the last one. We won't waste too much time on this already.
All right, this is something real simple. This is something real simple, y'all. We're not gonna drag this one out, but that was a good conversation about that one because we can branch that off and talk about that another time too, and bring that up in another conversation. However, y'all know I love movies, and I gotta stay up on my movies and stuff. So I know a long time ago, you know, I grew up on the Tina Turner movie with with Ike and Tina, and what's her name?
Angela Bassett.
Angela Bassett playing Tina Turner. I grew up on that one. Turner has just came out with, and she's basically telling her own story. I don't know if y'all seen it or not. I don't know if y'all have ever heard. Have anybody seen it besides me?
Yeah. So I haven't seen it, but I know Tina. I know enough Tina. I know enough of Tina Turner's story myself because I did my research on her a long time ago to know that the movie was correct. Was incorrect.
Yes. And it blew me to know that when she was telling her own story, it literally will make you hate that man. And literally, hate is a very strong word for me, and I really don't like to use that. I like to say I hate people, but just listening to her tell her own story and how she went through the things that she went through in her career, and to see where she's at now. And then I just seen another post I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, about her being ill or something, and she's saying her goodbyes to America or something, because I guess she's going back overseas, where I guess where her home is at. It just, I don't know. Johnny, you said you've seen it, so you've seen it, so you know.
My thing is, and I'm okay with it. I think like that, but I think that for me, let me just say this: Tina Turner was messing with a married man. That man was with somebody already before she started messing with him, right?
Okay.
So and so there are different components in her story that she leave out strategically, right? So that I just kind of feel like, whatever, girl. I don't know you. However, I also want to say this: Ike made a star. Period. Give that man his credit. Period. She wouldn't be
But
she
they
wouldn't
never
be
beat her ass like that.
without. Ike made a star. Regardless, so I don't care. I don't give me the looks, give me whatever.
Hell
Ike
no.
made a star.
Over here.
Ike made a star.
We
I
don't
feel like
support
No,
over here.
it's
no,
one
Tina made a
it's
star.
one
star.
thing
Tina
it's
made a
one
star.
thing to have the talent, but then to have somebody push you to use your talent is a difference. I feel like he pushed her to become a star, but she made herself a star.
Thank you.
He
I think
used her. He didn't push her to do
He
shit.
definitely
He
used
used
her.
her.
wanted to be bigger than her.
Say what?
Ike wanted to be bigger than Tina. He didn't push her to be
Exactly.
star. He brought her along to join him, and she started outshining him, so he had no choice to make her a star. But his
Exactly.
Right.
never took.
People were
Regardless,
inviting her to the studio and telling
regardless
him
of
to go
y'all talking about
elsewhere.
technicalities. Regardless, he made a star. Joe
No, he
Jackson
did
made
not.
a star. Joe Jackson made stars. Matthew Knowles made stars. I don't care. Like, regardless of anything, I understand that they went through shit. They made stars. Out of all of that, a diamond in the rough. It was a diamond in the rough, and they polished that diamond.
Yeah,
That's
baby.
No,
bullshit. So you're
I
basically
disagree.
co-signing on abuse, whether
I'm
it be child
Exactly.
abuse,
Absolutely.
marital abuse,
what I'm
whatever. That's what you're
co-signing on.
co-signing right now, because it made a star. Every
What I'm
child actor
co-signing.
out here was made a star by a parent who wanted to get paid. That don't make it right.
What I'm
Or
Exactly.
co-signing
even
on
simple.
is the fact that nobody wants to give that man his credit in regards to him
Because he
making
don't
a star.
deserve none.
There's no
That's
What the
what
credit
fuck
to
is
I
he
give,
give.
gonna
He
say
doesn't
for
that's
have
what
I
I'm
bills
give,
up.
co-signing
What are you
on.
no,
talking
Tina
about?
deserves,
That's what I'm
hold
co-signing on.
on. No, because if you know about Tina Turner,
Dude,
you
y'all
know
are
that when she
spicy tonight.
left,
I like this.
if you know anything about Tina Turner like you say you do, then you know that when she got her ass beat and she took her ass to that Ramada Inn, and then after the fact, she got to work. She didn't depend on Ike to get her back to work. She built herself back up and took her name
line
from
as a
Her
Ike
name.
temp?
and
I
put it
was keeping
on.
her back.
That's why she kept her name, because there was already already something there attached to it.
Why would you even
Next
start over?
conversation. Next conversation.
All right, you guys. Well, that's a wrap with that's Listen Up with Sean. We about to go ahead and bust it down with this conversation. Bryce, go ahead and reel us in, baby.
Yeah. Tonight we're gonna be talking about recreational substance use, and our first goal is to talk about how prevention is not promotion. But
Turn up,
before we
turn up,
get
turn up.
to Laura, I want to ask you, what do you consider as recreational drug use?
What do I consider recreational drug? I mean, I think that honestly depends on the drug user.
Mhm.
Everybody has different preferences. So, I mean, you've got a variety. We have drugs that are quote unquote legal and accepted in our society. Prohibition mandates that other drugs are still considered illicit, and even prohibition puts an age limit on what is recreational, at least as far as what society can see and feels acceptable. So yeah, it varies.
I also want to talk about, because people like to put levels onto drugs. So like we like to consider like weed as a low grade drug, and then we look at like heroin like as, oh, this is like hard. What do you consider like a hard drug, or is every drug considered a hard drug, or is hard drug a real thing?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, there's definitely harder drugs. And when I say harder, there are more potent drugs, and there's a lot of different classes of drugs. So when it comes to drug users and how people prefer to consume and what substances they're consuming, I mean, it again really varies. So I think like cannabis is very acceptable according to most people. Can be used, I think, again, that lens that society has, it's considered more recreational. It's still, taboo in a lot of areas, but you're seeing like a very progressive shift. Now, I look at drugs that are harder, but different again, and very experimental, like MDMA and other hallucinogens. You know, you can use those really recreationally and you know, not experience really harmful side effects. And you know, you party one weekend, you know, you take a pill, you know, really knowing your source, testing your drugs, things like that, and we can, you know, talk about that. But you know, again, there's different levels. Now, when you're talking, I think about, you know, methamphetamine or heroin, fentanyl, those are definitely very potent substances, and they offer, you know, all these drugs provide a different experience. So the way a person feels on heroin is obviously very different than a stimulant like methamphetamine. So again, preferences and how people are moderating. I think what it ultimately comes down to is how is a person using, you know, how are they navigating their community, you know, what adversity, you know, are they challenged with? And, you know, depending on different, you know, conditions and obstacles that people are faced with, I think really starts to speak more to whether, you know, folks can handle things in moderation, whether or not it turns into very chaotic drug use where substances are misused. You know, there's just a lot of variance.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said something about social acceptance, sociability, because when I think about marijuana, I'm like, oh girl, okay, whatever, they smoking. But if you go into a bathroom at the club, you see somebody snorting up, you be like, oh girl, y'all too grown for me, I'm scared. So it's like, I think it's different for every person what they consider what is a hard drug or what is just like a drug. But I also want to give people's opinions about what would they consider like as a hard drug, or do you think it's all drugs are hard drugs? Like Sean, what do you feel?
Well, I have one quick other thing like I want to intersect. So my favorite quote that I heard when I was actually in treatment was, you can't shoot heroin like a lady. And I love it because, you know, it just really like speaks to how it's perceived. And, you know, as a former IV drug user, you know, it's, you know, when I think about just like shooting up on a bench in like Central Park or like someplace, you know, I feel a certain way about it. I just, you know, it feels very aggressive in a lot of ways. But at the same time, like if this is something that I'm comfortable doing at home and I'm not judged, I mean, you just have to wonder, like when you really go back and you really dissect and look at the history of prohibition and drug use and, you know, a lot of the stuff with the war on drugs and stuff that just dates back hundreds of years with, you know, really racist and just very oppressive responses. Bayer, you know, had heroin sold, you know, over the counter. You know, these were all things that were provided at one time to be consumed and to be sold, and that treated certain ailments. And I just have to wonder, you know, had we really informed people on safe use the same way we do seatbelts, bicycle helmets, you know, and these other things. Like if you're going to go whitewater rafting, like you don't just jump into like a water of rapids, you're in a boat, you have a life, you know, you're trained, you're with mentors, you know, so in drug use, you've got your peers, you've got support, you've got ways to consume that are safe and so on and so forth. But yes, sorry, I just meant to include that.
No, you're fine. You're totally fine. I love this. Talking about substance use is definitely like passionate for me anyway, because, you know, I'm already in it as well. So, but Bryce, to answer your question, it just took me back to earlier today. Shout out to our CEO at Rain, Chelsea. Me and Bryce were sitting at the table today, and we was talking about, you know, substance use and talking about tonight. And Chelsea kind of chimed in on the conversation and asked what we were talking about. And we told her and everything. And she was telling me about a book that was written by this guy named Carl Hart. It's called Drug Use for Grown-Ups. And she started telling me a little bit about the writer of the book. And I was so intrigued because going back to, you know, what we think is a hard drug and what we think is not so hard, this, that, and the third, you know, even with me being in this field, I was taking it as if like, you know, anything that's, you know, above weed or cocaine, you know, I'm in my head, I'm thinking like that. I'm considering that to be a hard drug. I know that's probably not the right thing to do with me being, you know, working in this field, but I was considering in my head, that's what I normally would think outside of this, that anything above like cocaine, anything like that is definitely a hard drug. But to hear that this guy or this man is actually a professor at a college and he's an active heroin user and he still uses heroin. And he's allowed to teach, and he gets paid to do these studies and talk about, heroin use and how people are still functional when they're able to use, drugs that are considered to be hard. It kind of blew my head for a second because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, this guy's heroin, and he's able to actually go teach in front of a whole class, and he's functional. Because me seeing some heroin users, I've never seen a functional heroin user. I'm just gonna be honest. Anybody that I've ever seen that was using heroin, they were not functional. So to hear that, it literally blew my mind today, and it made me think outside the box and just open my eyes up a little bit more to just knowing that it's functional users around me every day, regardless of what substance they're using. But I have functional users that I'm friends with that's out in public that may need a drink just to, feel comfortable. I was feeling that way, to go in front of crowds and be in front of people. People don't consider that to be a drug or addiction or something like that. But we're gonna get into that too, you guys. So I ain't gonna jump too far ahead. But that's drugs of that sort that I kind of felt like that was above cocaine. Anything that you would shoot up, or I don't care, lick, or how you decide to do your drugs, or whatever, parachute. It's different words and different things that people do to take drugs. So, but whatever you did outside of cocaine, I was considering that to be a hard drug earlier today before I had that conversation with my CEO at work, because it literally opened up my mind to. I was just like, oh, okay, well, maybe I need to go back and read some more and get some more information, because that ain't right for me to be sitting thinking this way. So, but yeah.
So there's a lot. So I have not got that book yet, but it's supposed to be very good. I'm actually excited to read it. There's a couple of other books too. I mean, there's Unbroken Brain by Maya, and I can never pronounce her last name, but I'm happy to provide links and give you guys any information you'd like. Okay. There's also The Biology of Desire that really speaks to a lot of the more primal, human needs around drug use and why we consume and why we cope. Well, all of these things really talk to that. Dr. Carl Hart, actually, I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day. He caught a lot of, and is probably still catching a lot of flack because, just I think in light of everything that's going on, and we're in the middle of so many different pandemic. Well, not so many different, but it's one pandemic, and then public health crisis, overdose epidemic. All of these things. So to come out with this book and to speak very honestly and very truthfully about how this, person moderates their drug use and functions, and he's a brilliant man, absolutely brilliant. It also comes from a privileged place, right? This is somebody with the means to use in a very safe environment, to be able to really source their supply, and I think, as a whole, what we deal with, on the ground is very different. And that's not to say a lot of our members, don't come from privileged places as well. They do, but, a lot of them don't. The majority of them don't. So, there's a lot of things to consider there. So I think because he opens up such an awesome portal to how to use drugs as an adult and what that looks like and how people do really moderate and function, on these substances. It's awesome. It's just, people really need to be grandfathered into, this very progressive movement that is happening. And, I just don't think, unfortunately, the rest of, society is caught up, and we're watching a lot of systemic failure just, crumble left and right. So, it's a very potent time for him to be coming out with this. And I think there's a lot of, education and safety topics and ways to really start addressing our use and young people and adults and how they're safely handling and navigating these situations.
Absolutely.
Yes. I also want to talk about how and why we exchange needles and syringes. Because like I said earlier, prevention is not promotion, but a lot of times people feel like by giving people fresh syringes to inject their drugs that we're promoting their drug use, when really we're trying to reduce the spread of Hep C and HIV. So Lauren, can you give a little brief synopsis of why it's important to exchange syringes?
Sure. Yeah. So like you just said, by providing syringe access to create a program that's very low barrier, that gives people who use drugs the availability of medication like naloxone, other alternatives for wound care, clean needles so that there's vein care, and other very helpful sterile supplies for people who are consuming their drugs through injection. I'm kind of like, sorry, my brain just pinged. Say the question one more time.
Oh,
I know why we have a needle exchange,
yes.
safer syringe. Oh, HIV and infectious disease. One of the most important things. I'm sorry, this is where my mom brain kicks in, and I'm like half watching my toddler fly back on a scooter. Like, it's just crazy. So, so yes, with, I mean, this goes back 30 years. I mean, we saw this with the AIDS epidemic. You guys, this is not something I need to explain to this crowd. It was a very effective tool. We saw lots of peer syringe exchange programs, launch in support of really curbing the HIV epidemic. They were very successful, and it just modeled a critical component of how we really address overdose and prevention and working with people who use drugs. So North Carolina legalized syringe exchange in 2016, but it had been happening underground, and it's been happening for years underground. And it's so important because, again, those environmental conditions and, people who live riskier lifestyles, who don't have access to healthcare, it's not always a choice. So, and even when it is, it's not always the choice that a person wants to make, it's just what's available. So when we can provide clean and sterile needles, that definitely curbs, people sharing so that, there's not spread of infectious disease like HIV, hepatitis C, and other viral hepatitis. We offer safe sex supplies. So, we really work to curb STIs. We like to work with partners like RAIN and other local resources where people can get tested and screened and linked to, really, prevention-based treatment. So there's so many things syringe access programs do. And really, I don't even like saying syringe access programs sometimes anymore, because you're really not speaking to all the safer consumption supplies that are available to people and that should be legalized that currently aren't. So again, in North Carolina, with this law, the syringe access law, we can legally distribute syringes, but we can't legally distribute safer smoking, safer snorting equipment, things like that. That, oddly enough, I mean, when you look at other communities and other races, I mean, blowing a line here or there is widely acceptable, but yet we can't provide these people these very healthy, safe lifelines, which, to your other point in your question around enabling, I mean, again, another quote from a colleague that I love, if you look up the definition of enabling and empowering, they mean the same thing. So enabling got a very negative stigma attached to it. And that no matter how you were enabling a person, that looked toxic. And I look at, the way we enable people is to take care of their skin, to take care of their health, to use safely, to not share, their equipment, to never use alone, to have peer support, to have access to all this, there's no coercion. So, we really go at people's pace. So as they're getting, comfortable and as they're just developing different needs, they'll come to us and they'll say, hey, I'm interested in this or I'm interested in that. So there's just a really, organic ripple effect that really has a great and effective impact on individual and community health.
Go ahead, Patrice.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. To me, I think a hard drug is sugar, because they are putting that shit in everything, and it pings the same receptors in your brain as Coke. All you're doing is setting these people up for failure. It's not right.
It's 8 times more addictive than cocaine.
Sugar.
Hell, Pepsi
Yeah.
is. And Pepsi
Yes.
and Coca-Cola. I'm gonna tell you something.
Child, let me tell you something. I want to talk about. I'm addicted to ice cream.
Like,
Ben and Jerry's.
oh my gosh.
I need it like every day. Like, I can't. I'm addicted to ice cream. Since we all adults, I want to talk about the children, and I want to talk about when do we feel like it's socially acceptable to start speaking to our youth about drugs.
Yes.
I want to
Yes.
understand.
Well, and so you also bring up this really fascinating component around other behaviors. Like, we focus so much on drug use. Why aren't we focusing on like how people are consuming food and consuming sex and consuming work and consuming all of these other things that like just they're coping mechanisms. They're a behavior, they're a symptom of a much deeper condition. So like, why aren't we looking at the whole?
Why you mad, Johnny? Because you still at work at 7:30?
Not even worse. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Denial. How very dare you?
Okay, let me get to the second part of my comment I was going to make. Okay.
I was telling them
I know
earlier.
you said, Lauren, that North Carolina legalized needle exchange in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever see them legalizing safe spaces where people can do drugs, where there is people ready with Narcan, and like they do in New York, they have like that little underground thing where you can go and safely use. They have doctors, they have nurses, and you can use all different kinds of substances, but it is watched, and you know you don't really have the overdose issues.
Yep, safe for consumption sites, absolutely. So I don't know, we're a southern state, we still fall, pretty conservative, largely conservative. And it's hard. It's like I'm visualizing like, the massive scale, right? And how things are going to fall. And North Carolina has made, in response to the opioid epidemic, which again, it is an opioid epidemic. It's also a polysubstance use epidemic, because we're not just dealing with heroin and opiates, we're dealing with a lot of cross, drug supplies. So North Carolina has been very receptive. Our partners actually at the Injury Violence Prevention Branch and the Department of Health and Human Services here in Mecklenburg County, we have great partners that, have just, and the harm reduction community, North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition, Urban Survivors Union. There's so many programs. There's upwards to about, I think, 40 programs right now. So you're definitely seeing a lot of support around why these programs exist, why they serve the essential, because they're needs based. We really are just meeting people where they're at and working hard to get them to where they want to go with, a lot of autonomy in that process for them. So I don't know. I mean, like, I would love to see, us be able to launch these sites, because they really are just another life-saving support. Like you're saying, you have people on hand. I do think it sterilizes an environment a little bit, but there are a lot of unbelievable harm reductionists who have been, trained. And I mean, this is just learned over a lifetime, plus extra training and credentials that you get along the way that, I really think that we could see some cool models develop, but I just don't know if we would see that, in the next like 5-10 years. I mean, we're still getting, we haven't even really, we're doing better with cannabis, right? We're seeing a lot of legislation really favor cannabis. We've seen the syringe access law, move in a really positive direction, but, there's other legislation. I mean, there's another Senate bill that's being, not in North Carolina. Well, I don't actually know. I'm not speaking clearly, but it criminalizes possession of, fentanyl. So it's just another way to prohibit and criminalize and incarcerate, people unnecessarily. And then the piece that I really want to speak to is what happens is death by distribution passed in 2019. So, when somebody overdoses and 911 is called, there's a lot of things that can happen, and you're seeing people getting detained and going to prison and serving sentences that are insane. I mean, 7 to 10, 10 to 20, and upwards to 30 years. I mean, it's just horrible. And these are young people who are using with their friends. And, I say all of this to speak to Good Samaritan, and how that's being dismantled through death by distribution, because people don't feel safe calling the law. And to come full circle to your question, it's it's hard to say because you still have a strong push that really wants to criminalize and just really suppress and oppress, even more to the point, really marginalized groups of people who, health is a right,
They
not
need
a privilege.
that free work done at the prison. They need somebody to come in and do that free work.
Yeah, and again, I apologize with it just being late and me not articulating it, but there's just so much legislation that's happening that you're seeing that's very progressive and very supportive of harm reduction and prevention and these really awesome initiatives that work to really treat, the roots of a community. But at the same time, you're seeing this really nasty push from very conservative, forces that really just still want to lock people up. And, as much as people want to talk the game of, let's not arrest our way out of this, you're still going after the wrong thing. We're just not looking at our communities. We're not looking at our, environmental conditions and why people are even doing this in the first place. So I know that was like a really long answer around safer injection sites, but I mean, it really would it would really resolve so many problems. I wish we were progressive enough, but I just don't think we're there yet.
Right.
And I had a conversation a long time ago with someone. I don't remember. I know it was a part of an organization, and we were talking about ideas on getting somebody that is considered an addict, right? And and they're going through these different programs, but at what point are we able to get them back into their, what is it? I think you used, what is it? But at what point are we able to get them back into the recreational use type, like as far as the category? Because a lot of these programs are saying that if a person is an addict, they have these addictive personalities and brain cells here, this, that, and whatever case may be. However, like, why is there not science behind on how to get somebody? Because they're using, because not only it may be going through something or things like that. I understand that portion, but there's some people that are just using it just for recreational, right? Not going through anything, right? I just want to have fun. I just want to do something on the weekend, right? And so for a person that has been deemed an addict and is going through these programs, it is now they're now looked upon, bad when they go back to start using, or if they do have a drink, or if they do, start using at one point in time, like, it's like, oh, here about to break loose, things like that. But I guess my question in regards to, like, what is the science right now in regards to somebody that has been deemed an addict and getting them back into recreation to where they can use and actually be and it's used safely and be and just be okay and be functional, and go about their everyday lives and do things. And I was very interested in regards to that book that David had wrote, Dr. What's his name?
Carl Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hart had wrote, because that was something that I had been discussing a long time ago, and it seemed like that was something that spoke my interest, because that's what I was talking to in regards to it. A person that's now been deemed an addict, but they've been reformed and are now able to use, accordingly, or however they would like to use,
So, loaded question. There's a huge lack of transitional care, huge lack. Treatment, a lot of these healthcare settings are very coercive and very high barrier in nature. And look, I mean, there's a lot of people who work in these institutions who, try to change it, but there's just so much red tape. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to how people re-enter a community and really get to navigate their resources and their peer support and just how they're going to, find health and wellness outside of these, agencies, organizations, treatment centers, prisons, whatever institution you're in, is extremely challenging. And I think because, and again, I say this delicately because there is a very progressive shift that is happening. You're seeing a lot of change in how people are approaching treatment. You are seeing a lot of people really adapting harm reduction into their models so that they can, more appropriately treat individual needs, because the path to recovery, and again, that really depends on how you perceive recovery. It's so different for everybody. There's just no one right way. My experience is not going to be anybody else's experience, and vice versa.
Right.
And so, we have to really start working on these. We really have to start working on messaging that's a lot more aligned and not so intolerable of, alternative care that isn't abstinence-based, because, that's one of the main barriers. I think people who are coping, and again, because this is a symptom of another condition, when you look at people who use drugs, and look, there are some people, a lot of people who use drugs who do it because it's recreational. They moderate, they function, it's just, it doesn't go into chaotic, and it just is what it is. And then there are other people who just totally spiral out of control. But again, like those situations and those conditions, their adversity is their own. And so when it comes to the disease model, that we've been focused on for a while around, addiction and behavior around addiction, that's pretty much the one most subscribed to. And while I think it's very relevant, ideology around recovery and abstinence-based programs is not evidence-based. The research was never consistent. Again, it was not a model that works for everybody. You don't walk into a program like AA or NA and don't run into people who don't have a recurrence of use. It's part of the process, in my opinion. And, everybody just, has to go through what they have to go through. So when you're really forced to stay a certain way because this is how you're going to be accepted, that can be even more challenging when you're layered with mental health, other trauma, PTSD, and you just never really know what's going to trigger a person and how to appropriately support them. It really takes, a team. And so that's why there's different models. There's the disease model, there's the reprogramming model, there's the moderation model. There's a lot of different information that is being researched, that is showing, effectiveness. And that's a whole lot more evidence-based than anything that promotes abstinence. Now, I'm not saying abstinence is wrong, because I think that harm reduction, abstinence, all of this, can absolutely go together. I feel strongly, however, that that's up to the individual. So if I'm a person who uses drugs and abstinence is my goal, then I'm going to work for it. And if that means that I have to go through some kind of maintenance and work through some kind of, whatever it is, that's something that I've made a choice to do, that I'm willing to participate in. So my retention is probably going to be more successful. When I'm more forced into something, then I don't really fully understand it. I'm not absorbing all of it. Maybe I'm taking some, but it's not impacting me the same way.
Right.
And then there are other models, right? So some people really just need to go, this is really chaotic and I need to slow down. And they move into moderation models, with support again, like they have, if, especially in our program, they can always contact outreach specialists. There's a lot of peer support out there today. And, there's ways of saying hey, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to go. And I don't want to totally stop using. And I'd really like to address some of this mental health stuff. And you just work with them, right? So it's got to be paced differently for everybody. But there's a lot of different models to look at today that are extremely relevant and a lot more practical than just somebody saying sober up, do some inventory, everything's going to be great again.
So I have a question. I have always seen or read that if a so-called addict tries to recreationally use, that it sends them back into that same spiral.
I did say the first part again. I heard you say that it helped, a person can return into a spiral, but I didn't get the first part.
So people who have gotten sober and are abstinent, when they try to recreationally use, let's say with their friends, or they go out and they want to do something different, that typically leads them right back into spiraling back into addiction.
Yeah, it does. So you see in a justice-involved population, when somebody's detained and they're incarcerated for a certain amount of time, justice-involved individuals are 14 times more likely to overdose upon release. Your tolerance is totally changed. Your source is changed. Your environment may or may not have changed. I mean, there's a lot of attributing factors to how a person is reentering their community, and that's why I also said, you know, transitional care is it's bleak. You know, it's really challenging. Linkage is extremely challenging. So, you know, I really can't speak to the experience of other people, you know, and you know, it's challenging to say what, you know, really triggers a person to do, you know, whatever it is they do, or engage in whatever behavior it is it's more about comfort, right? So they're going back to something that they know. So for me, anytime I had left, you know, jail or a hospital or treatment, it was challenging because, you know, well, not so much in prison, but like in treatment or in a hospital, you know, you are given certain tools, mostly which are abstinence-based. So, you know, you sit in groups, you talk about AA, you go through all this stuff, and then you're just kind of poof, you know, you're out. And that's terrifying. If I didn't know how to live life successfully and I was coping this way, and there are these other challenges I'm up against, how do I just like start life? Like, how do I really, you know, get roots, get my feet on the ground? I mean, it's just, you know, there's a lot of basic life skills and things. So, you know, when you're
a lot of pressure.
You're removed, you're placed into a microcosm, you know, you're told that this is the only way. And if you don't do it this way, like, you know, the worst thing about rehab is when you're sitting in a group and they say to you, you know, look to the person on your right, look to the person on your left. One of you will make it. And you're like, fuck, I'm gonna die. Like, this is what I'm being taught. I'm a piece of shit. I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
They may survive, but they may not. I mean, you're there's so much fear that's ingrained to people who have to go through these different types of settings, you know, when, you know, anything can happen. So I had to really be careful. I struggled a lot. I mean, I was in a lot of different places, and I, you know, in their opinion, fell off the wagon constantly. But I don't look at it that way anymore, because I just, you know, look, there were major consequences for me. Could I have overdosed? Could I, you know, just, there's so many things that could have happened. And I did overdose, you know. There are just other levels that, I don't know, man, it's tough, right? So even with some of the consequences, you know, and losing some of the stuff you lose, there's a chase, there's still fundamental misunderstanding, because you've been ingrained with misinformation that, at least for me, I knew wasn't totally true. And that's a really difficult internal struggle. And I think that internal struggle happens differently for different people, depending on what culture you're coming from, depending on what substance you're coping with, depending on why you're even coping with that substance in the first place. You know, a lot of my stuff came from trauma around grief and a lot of PTSD. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I still can't speak to today that require a lot of therapy. But like, the more I was able to take agency in my health and wellness, the more people gave me the opportunity to really navigate my options with informed, you know, messaging. You know, I was really able to properly choose a path that I felt worked for me, and that so far continues to work for me. When that other stuff was really forced down my throat, it just goes sideways because you don't really know how to come out of it. And it also happens so quickly because, you know, you're detained for different amounts of time. And depending on that, especially if it's long time or you're serving a really long sentence, I mean, it's just so tough. I mean, you're just not given essential support. And again, those people who want to provide that support, they're not given the resources or the support that they need to really help people get to where they need to go. I mean, it just all comes, you know, down. So sorry, another long answer.
That's totally fine. So I think this particular subject, that we've kind of only scratched the surface on it a couple of times. We've never really dived into recreational use and how how Rain kind of kind of that's something that we kind of still hold dear to our heart, even though that's not our mission. It doesn't fall in the lines to what we do. However, that is a barrier to care. That's why we care so much about this conversation.
Yes.
So there are different components that I would like to go down, and of course we don't have the time to do that tonight. Would you be interested in coming back on the live with us at a later date once we get it scheduled? Because there's some things that we want to talk about in regards to the racial construct and how that and there's a lot of things that I kind of want to dive into that I wasn't able to kind of really dive into today.
This was just like an outline. There's so many other things.
There's so much to talk about. Yeah. No, that sounds awesome. I'd be happy.
Yes, please.
I know it's a loaded conversation. And there's a lot.
I'm loving it.
And I also want to thank you for your authenticity and sharing a little bit of your story. I appreciate that, and I don't want that to go on or left unnoticed. We appreciate that because you didn't have to do that, and I appreciate that a lot.
I mean, you have to. I mean, I don't disclose everything, but I think it's important when you need to relate. People need to know that you have that understanding, and you never want to come from a place where you're so walled off that they don't understand that you're human too. I mean, it's
absolutely.
Well, thank you. So,
thank you, Lauren. Oh my God, y'all don't understand.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys like listening to. Like I told you, I mean, I can go down some rabbit holes. So you got a real man.
They tell you I'm the same way. We're just passionate.
Yes, we are passionate, definitely.
So, with all of that being said, I want to thank you all for watching us tonight. There's going to be a second airing of this tomorrow. On Friday, we're going to now start re-airing some of the things that we do, so that you guys have a second chance to kind of watch it and watch the live as well. So you will see this again on tomorrow as well, and then we'll see you guys next week. Have a happy Good Friday. Do some shopping, get some rest, all of that, and y'all know what we do, so y'all get ready for it.
I do. Do I put my head up?
You just make yourself look real cute right quick for the camera. Look real cute for the camera real quick.
Getting tested is what?
Sexy.
It's so very sexy.